This video is going to be more specifically about the particles and hair. So again, we just have our favorite duck. What I'm going to do is immediately, I'm just going to go ahead and give him a hair modifier. To do that, you just come over here to the Particles tab, click the plus button, and if you do emitter, it'll be particles in a more traditional way. And if you click hair, it will be hair. If I was to go to rendered mode right now, you'll see that the hair is super crazy, very spiky and thick. But what we can do is a few different things. What I'm going to start with is actually going to the shader editor, and I'm going to make a new material. And this is going to be the hair material. We don't really need a diffuse BSDF though. What we need is if you go to the shader, you press Shift A to pull up the search, go to shader and principled hair. And you just want to plug that into surface. And we'll just make this a nice yellow hair. And that's that. What will be better though too is if we could contain the hair to a certain part of the duck. Now that we have the material for the hair ready, it's super easy to set up, right? You just kind of pull that down here. And next step is to contain the hair to a particular area, because right now you can see it's all over the place. So what we need to do is we need to make a vertex group, which is basically just a smaller sub-selection of vertices on the duck. And I'm just going to go to a top view here, rotate the camera, and we're going to give him kind of a mohawk. All the way down to his tail. And if I press Control and drag, we can deselect some of these. And I'll Shift select to get those on the back of his neck too. So he's going to have hair all the way down that part. Once I have these vertices selected, you go to the Vertex menu, Vertex Groups, and Assign to New Group. And that has now created this vertex group. Super easy to do. But the hair you'll see is still all over the duck. So what you need to do is in the Particles tab with that duck selected, you go down to the vertex groups and density, you can just pick that group we just made. And you'll see immediately it has now confined the hair to this smaller region on the duck. Now we get to do the fun stuff. We get to think through how much hair do we want it to have, how long do we want it to be, and how thick do we want that hair to be. If you do hair dynamics, it will actually run through the physics system, and you can hit play, and if you have gravity on, it will fall. I find that this takes a super duper long time, and we'll actually just do a different method once we have the setup ready. So let's play with the length a bit. I'm going to put it at a length of, let's give it like a kind of short mohawk. I think that'll be funny. And we'll make it a little bit higher resolution. The segments are like resolution there. And then we want to go to render. And under the render tab, this is where we pick the material that we just made. In order to give the hair material to the duck, you need to go to the duck's materials menu and add an additional material slot. Then once you have that material slot added, you can go down into the hair's render settings and select that second material as the hair's material. Under path, if you increase this, the hair will be less rigid, so we probably want that on. And hair shape, this one we'll have to test as we go through. I'm going to actually jump into our camera, but you can still see this hair is looking more like toothpicks than hair. Let's edit that a bit. The biggest thing that you want to edit is the diameter on the hair. I'm going to put this down to 0.1. Okay. And 0.01 perhaps. That's not too bad. It's still very toothpicky. That's because we haven't moved the hair particles at all, right? They're just coming straight out. So it'll look a lot better once we adjust that aspect. But I'm going to give him 10,000 hairs. Be careful with raising this number too high. Hair isn't the heaviest thing you can add, but if you add like 1,000,000 hairs, it will probably slow your computer down quite a lot. Once we're ready to get the hair in position, what we want to do is because we've added the hair system, it has added an additional mode, which is the particle edit mode. And it gives you a brush, which starts with a small radius, but I'm just going to increase that radius, and we can literally just comb the hair. Of course, this isn't ideal for animation, because in animation you want it to move as the character is animated, but for a still render, the comb is perfecto. And there's some different brushes you can try here. The puff brush, for example, puffs the hair up. If you need to, you could even cut the hair and straighten or use these other features. Now that we have the hair positioned a bit, let's go back to render mode and see what that looks like. Oh yeah, that's looking pretty good. I might even thin the hair out a little bit more. So you'll see that because I have done the particle edit mode, these options are grayed out now. So what we have to do is we have to delete the edit. And so we'll have to recomb it after we make changes. But I am going to go ahead and give him like 60,000 hairs. And I'm going to make it even smaller. So I'm going to go like 0.05 for the diameter. It's looking pretty good. And for sake of showcasing, I'll go ahead and save this. And I'm going to run the hair dynamics. This will slow down the file quite a lot, but I'll go ahead and run it. So what you need to do before you run this, the hair dynamics, you have to put a collision on the duck's body. So what you need to do is you need to go to the physics tab and add a collision on the duck itself. And just by adding this to the duck, it has now got a collision that will react with the particles. But what you might want to do is up the quality of the collisions. That way the hair will always try to stay on the outside of the geometry better. It'll make more calculations to do that. And since we have gravity on, gravity is set to 1 here, it is in the scene by default. If we hit the play button, it will just go through the timeline and play through the hair with gravity on it. So I'm just going to let that roll for. So I let the simulation play out for about 36 frames here, and now let's see the results. That is looking pretty good if you ask me.